Yo, what's good, Soul Tribe? Thank you for being the vibe. It's your host doing the most, G3E, the one and only, none other. Welcome to another episode of the Daily Spread where we take the journey within and on this path we are led. Thank you, God, angels, guardians, and ancestors, and all beings wishing us well. May this reading be swell, and in the highest vibration of love we dwell. Hey. What it do, gang? I hope you guys have had a beautiful day. And let's tap in, let's tune in. That's what we're about, scream and shout. Well, what's coming from within? And what's coming from within right now, and I think for all of us really is um this opportunity to pour from our hearts to like the previous reading or the previous message was about unlocking the God within, that version of ourselves that we are so much needing to express, right? And I was thinking about what's on the other side of that today, and I realized that it was the fear of living openly and honestly. I think, even now, oh my goodness, I'm even feeling all these shivers right now. We construct so many things around ourselves, behind ourselves, in front of ourselves that we get to hide behind, that are ultimately allowing us to perpetuate this fear of living openly and honestly. Maybe sometimes we're scared, of judgment, of what people might do, what people might say, or even to even truly see ourselves and the lives that the lives that we lead and live, and how we might need to change. But we can hide behind whatever it is. We can call them tools, ways of being, ways of thinking. But the point I'm trying to get to is that at a certain point it's chai, gang. These things oh once served us but once, right, it's once upon a time, they once served us, or perhaps they continue to serve us, in us not necessarily being maybe able to let them go. But it is clear that they are speaking to the parts that we need to heal, the parts that we need to understand. What are we without our crutch, without outsourcing, without needing to numb ourselves, quote unquote? I think to how we might construct these things, maybe it's a habit, maybe it's a phobia, or whatever it may be. They are there to keep ourselves and our minds in a state of survival. And what we are doing here, what I'm also aiming to do, is to rewire our brains, our bodies, our minds, our spirits for success versus survival. We've been through so much, if not in this lifetime, in previous lifetimes, if not us in, if you don't believe in reincarnation, you could believe that it's like the lifetimes of your ancestors or your forefathers. And if we have this life, in fact, not if, we do, the best thing that we can do is heal that and ultimately not have to reincarnate or repeat those same mistakes ever again, because we've remembered, we've integrated those lessons and understood that we are of source. And you know what? Sure, we have multiple reasons to numb, to, construct these things around ourselves, that perpetuate this fear of living openly and honestly, like painful experiences, who hurt you? The disappointments, the heartbreak, the heartache, sometimes caused by others, and other times openly and honestly. even being caused by ourselves. We also let ourselves down. We self-sabotage, we self-sacrifice. We go into situations, places, spaces, knowing very well that you're going to screw yourself up, you know? So let's acknowledge, let's be honest. But whether this is, self-inflicted or from an external source, sometimes known, sometimes unknown, we can be kind enough to ourselves to no longer dishonor the power that we've been given. And this is the power to act. This is the power to choose. This is the power to decide. One of my favorite quotes is, "The fall of man is indecisiveness." I wish I could remember who said it, but I live by this quote so much because it just says that, or means that, our choices and our non-choices dictate who we are. So whether you decide or not, you've already made a decision. So why rescind? Why delegate? Why give up that power that is within us to decide who we want to be, what our true essence is, the characters that we want to unlock? I recall a few messages or readings ago how I was speaking to, if we looked at life as a game, we can ultimately dictate all the conditions, all the parameters, the characters that we choose to be, how we are, how we live. And it's time to, practicalize that, bring it down from just a thought and into the reality. I'm even thinking of a friend of mine who's passed away, David, rest in peace, man. He used to tell me, thoughts to reality is a real thing. We are truly going to create and manifest what we think about. So let's change our thoughts, right? But we need to align those thoughts. And as we align those thoughts with the highest vibration, with love, with light, with creation, with expansion, with source, with God, with the universe, with oneness, ultimately, we need to remember that there's a war going on, guys. What it do, gang? Even the gangs of the world, opposing sides, there's a war. And if we don't choose a side, our side has already been chosen for us. If you're not in the battle, you are a tool of the battle. You're just part of the matrix, you're just part of the vast majority that goes with the wind or that gets swayed. And we can stay loving this fictional version or idea of what we perceive as comfort, right? As what life truly is, or to go to the depths within and determine, how much more righteous we can become, how much more true we can become. And we are truly doing this for ourselves. And I think, again, that's what life would truly be. How can we honor this essence? How can we honor this power? How can we honor this opportunity? Because we are just only a speck. We are only just a fraction of time, of the true source, of true nature of creation, of God, right? Of love. And I believe that it is in this realization that we come closer to oneness, and we recognize that we are not just living for ourselves, but part of the greater collective, the greater consciousness. I've been thinking about reading for the collective for so long, for sharing my messages for so long. And people would always tell me, "Hey, why are you so serious? Hey, G, always being emotional." But I realized that being part of the collective, I was holding on to the collective energy. I could feel the unrest that's within us, that strong, deep desire to remember who we truly are, where we truly come from, the galaxies within, the galaxies without. And if only I'd known, if only I had guides, people who could Speak to my soul, speak to my spirit. Ooh. Confirmation burp right there, man. But you know what? I had to go on this journey within. I had to also experience, I also had to build things around me that, closed me off, that were protective in some stages or points in my life. But I needed to unlearn. I needed to wake up, to awaken, to unlock. Unlock, unlock. I don't give a F about your number one spot. Hey. And what's the AKA, gang? What are you also known as? Who are you? Who are we? Right? Without those labels. Please, if you are just finding this reading, number one, it's timeless, it's general. And if you do need something more specific, hit me up. Let's connect, man. Like, I think there's something powerful in this. We can all affect each other's lives because we are all a reflection of each other. And as much as I will learn through you, you will learn through me. And we will build this community. What's good, tribe? Thank you for being the vibe. But, man, I'm losing my point and my train of thought. But you know what? We were going with it, right? It's a stream of consciousness. I'm just feeling like we'll find ourselves in these acts of service, That's why I also want to give so much. Because I know that there's so much for us all. There's enough for everyone. And being more compassionate to the plight of others, to the plight of the world, versus wanting to box people or ourselves into the constructs the world created to separate us. I'm remembering now what I was trying to say is that by seeking all these guides, it's like we become our own guides. We unlock this power within and realize that by becoming these guides, we help other people. We mother ourselves, we father ourselves, we become the version of ourselves that we always desired. And it's about allowing ourselves to embody that because we truly deserve it. To honor ourselves and no longer do those things that were hurting the self. And that is this rediscovery of ourselves, right? So whatever these constructs are that the world created to separate us, wars, division, racism, sexism, materialism, capitalism, name the ism. Because they're trying to get us into that mode or into that frame. But the truth is, we have to ask ourselves who benefits of that. They make money, they make societies, they make whatever it is off of our division and the differences that they highlight amongst us. And we are only a mere reflection of the greater understanding that we need to attain in ourselves, in this expression of life, in this expression of love. Because like I was saying in the previous reading, that uniqueness just shows us that we are one. Our differences make us one. Our differences make us interesting. Because if we were all the same, there wouldn't be anything to learn. But that's why it's like you loop, you see the difference first. And in understanding that difference, it brings you back to where you started. And it's like, oh, hey, crap, actually, we are the same. We are just divine expressions of life and love. So like I started, gang, I'm very much led to speaking from my heart, to pour from within, for the next couple of videos, for the rest of my life, actually. I have been doing it, but now more vigorously, more intentionally, and to trust where they will take me, where the journey will take me, or where that will take me, right? Because there's a message in this process about trusting, about surrendering, and appreciating this power within. And because we appreciate ourselves and we know what we appreciate appreciates, it'll only become easier to channel these messages, via my clear gifts that I've now accepted, the clear audience, the clear sentience, the clear cognizance, and from time to time, even the clairvoyance, because it's a remembrance taking place for me. I believe you, as the listener of this, would relate to this in your gift, in the way that you express it. There's a previous colleague of mine who discovered that he has the gift of joy, that wherever he goes, he brings smiles to people's faces and places. Like, how beautiful is that? I don't think all of us have these complicated gifts. It's just a matter of knowing what is it that your energetic frequency most resonates with when you're being true, when you're just being you, without the label, without the role, without the construct, right? Without the fear. So, again, this message is for you. It's for me. And let's ask ourselves, where do we outsource our power? And how can we take our strength back? We speak to calling power back, or calling our power back, cutting cords from past people, places, and things that took our power. But what about those that we are willing to give our power to? The ones that we give our power to so often that it's become our normal. It's time. It's a time as well. The time is apt. Every time is a good time. To evaluate what we pour energy into. Because where our focus goes, energy flows, right? We know this. So are you feeding the beast, or are you feeding the soul? Are you feeding the mind, or are you feeding control? Are we feeding the heart, or slowly breaking apart? Hey, the boy's bussin', bro. The boy's bussin', cooking up that drip right here. And we drip because we have overflow. Guys, there's so much for us. Enough for everyone. Hey? So if this message has triggered you, I've done my job. And not necessarily triggered in the sense of like bad, but just sparked something within you, Even that, we have to review these words that we use and how we interpret them, because that too was meant to create some kind of division, some kind of perception. So when I ask myself who I truly am, I know that I'm a divine being. And I know that you are too. I know that we all are. So let's continue this journey within. Let's continue evolving, expanding, unlocking, elevating, loving, and lighting. And thank you for joining me for another divine edition of the Daily Spread on Roots Holistic. Peace and love, gang. Yay, yay.